This is On Base, your one-stop shop for solving your most pressing B2B go-to-market challenges. Each week, hosts Chris Moody and Paul Gibson talk to sales and marketing leaders to get you in-depth insights and creative strategies to set your revenue teams up for success.
Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm your host, Chris Moody. Today, I'm very excited to talk to Amanda Dyson on reimagining ABM. Amanda is a 20-year B2B SaaS marketing veteran. She's run regional and global teams and has a passion for people and results and a proven track record of success. She's held leadership positions in sales and marketing, including account-based marketing, partnerships, demand gen, field and corporate marketing, all the marketings, and for global supply chain management and enterprise resource planning companies. When Amanda is not growing people or pipeline at leading tech companies, she enjoys spending time with her family in the mountains or at the beach, running daily, and practicing mindfulness. Amanda, really excited to have you on the show.
I'm super excited to be here. Thanks so much. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. I am too. It's great. We have two North Carolina folks too. For those who don't know, in this virtual world of Zoom and recorded video and podcasts, we are in the same state, which is always
we're not actually too far from each other.
That's right. We can meet in person one day, like real life, like we used to do.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Yeah. Well, Amanda, how has your experience with account-based marketing evolved over time? And what are some of the lessons you've learned about successful ABM?
I like that question. I'd start by saying, I think that a lot of people kind of overestimate the maturity and the understanding of ABM sort of within their own organizations. And what I mean by that is you still got to nail the basics of ABM before you get too sophisticated in your campaigns or your approach or your tools. ABM, we know, is meant to be hyper personalized and targeted. In my view, you've really got to speak the language of your customers and meet them where they're at, not where you think they should be, or, kind of where you are in your own organization and journey. So I always recommend to my account-based marketing team and managers, go to their website, learn their products, read their 10Ks and their annual reports and executive bios, and then build a campaign that looks and sounds like them, not like you, stray from your brand colors or brand font and, kind of think outside of that little box. I also say never, ever, ever lead with feature functionality. Don't lead with the product. You got to show them you understand their pain points and that they can trust you and to, partner with you to solve their problems, not just sell them something. So if you can nail all that, I think then you can get creative. That's the really fun part. ABM is probably my favorite type of marketing because it can be disruptive and provocative. And honestly, it's just all about the customer and how to stand out to them.
I love that. And before we hit the record button, we were talking about how our CMO and our CSO are writing a book together on sales and marketing alignment. And you were talking about some of the fundamentals, which means we actually have to talk to each other. That's one part of account base. But what are some of the common challenges you see that companies face with aligning marketing and sales to do account-based marketing?
Yeah. And I'm super excited to read that book, I think is what I was telling you too. So when I took the role at my current company, I did a field kickoff presentation all about ABM. And my main takeaway for the sales team was ABM doesn't happen without direct alignment with sales and marketing. It's absolutely crucial and you won't be successful without it. ABM is not, hey, I have this account, throw it over the wall to marketing, go run a campaign. And so in the role that I'm in now, we have a pretty strict account nomination process. We ask a lot of questions and vetting up front. Accounts have to be approved by us as the marketing leaders, as well as sales leadership, before we even accept them into our program. So once that's kind of established and we agree to the account, we do a series of calls where the account owner educates us on everything, the business need, the account plan. I mean, we really get in the weeds. And we include stakeholders and subject matter experts from product and solution and consulting to kind of form a little unit around the account and the campaign. So that's all before we start talking about tactics and channels and, pretty pictures and all of that kind of stuff. So we also use Teams. We have Microsoft Teams at my company, and we set channels for every single campaign that we do. And that becomes our little collaboration, spot where we keep each other updated. The salespeople can tell us sales meetings or demos that are coming up. We report campaign metrics on a weekly basis once the campaign gets in market. And then we kind of monitor it. We monitor the pipeline that's generated. We monitor anything that goes to close, and we celebrate all of those wins. So in the first year that we ran ABM here at E2 Open, where I'm at now, all of that said, we exceeded our pipeline goal 130%. So it was really a great achievement. And it's, again, just does not happen if you don't have that alignment with your sales team. Absolutely crucial.
I love everything about your response, first of all, but I have to go back to the account nomination process and make sure that everyone heard that, takes it in, and understands what's really going on there. Because when we talk about this a lot, and my days as an analyst, you always want a pull strategy where you're getting sellers to pull account base towards them and not just pushing it out. I do think there's always over the top things that we will do to support accounts. We always have advertising. We always have personalization, a lot of the things. But when you're talking about an account nomination process, I feel like a lot of folks may say, oh, well, we're just trying to do everything for sales and we want to build rapport with sales and that's what they want. But the two-way dialogue there, if you could double click on that for everyone who may not be familiar and talk about how that actually happens and works and some of the benefits of working that way versus saying, oh, great, we'll take our top 1,000 and we're going to run account base for all 1,000 where you don't have that intimacy and that connection together.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I'll be specific. This is kind of mostly for like true one-to-one. We're doing a lot of one-to-one account-based marketing here. We'll do similar things around one-to-few and one-to-many, but the nomination process has really been focused on our one-to-ones. And honestly, even the process has kind of evolved to get better and more detailed over time. We put out a nomination form when we started the program, and I can tell you, like, sometimes we don't get complete nominations and we tell them, we're not going to accept these. And they're like, well, the SVP of sales is saying you will. And I say, well, then we need more information. We have to get a lot more information. And, you'll get some sales reps that are, just so good at it. And they just make your job so easy and everything's clicking and working. And I mean, those tend to be your pretty successful salespeople, right? Because they know how to use their resources. Marketing, of course, is a resource, but they're doing it in a very thoughtful way. They're thinking through all the different paths and avenues. I'd say one of the other things that we've learned over this too is obviously ABM's hyper targeted and personalized, but also the focus of the campaign we found to be really crucial, because you might get a big account, right? And you just want to sell them everything and they could use everything, so they're not wrong in that way. But we've learned that you can't boil the ocean. You have to go in with like a targeted approach. And that's when those early meetings that we're having, all those, I wouldn't call them brainstorming sessions, but they're collaborative sessions where we're saying, well, what are we going to start with? Yeah, we can campaign all of this eventually, but where are we going to start? Where do we have the best chance of success? Success begets success. And then let's build on that. So it's been really good. I love the program. I love talking about the program, obviously. And, I think sales would say that it's been successful as well.
Perfect. I love that too. And you may have started to answer this question. I want to dig in on building alignment and buy-in. And you did talk about some sellers fill out the entire form and know how to use their resources, right? There's always a tell, but if folks are wondering, how do I best build alignment and create some of that buy-in internally for account base, what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, there's a saying, and I'm not always good at saying, so I might screw it up. It's like, tell it to me again and then tell me what you told me or something like that. Yep. And so like repetition and like consistency, right? So we have an ABM overview deck that's just a living, breathing deck that's got our, what is ABM? Why do we do it? What's in it for the customer? What's in it for me? But then we constantly add to it. So we're adding in what our current campaigns are, what's on deck, some of the visuals so they can get an idea, like what's the package that we're going to put together for ABM. And I just consistently point to it. It's a live link, so I'm not ever sending out a stale PowerPoint. So they always have the updated version. We also, I mentioned like a Microsoft house. This isn't a Microsoft ad, but we use SharePoint, right? So everything's posted on our SharePoint page. And we just consistently point them to those places to kind of reinforce that behavior. The overview deck, we start all of our calls with it. We stress it again as like a living, breathing document, and it's always up to date. So I'm constantly updating it. My team is constantly updating it. And I think that the real buy-in kind of comes from showing some of those successes. So early on in the program, we were showing like what are some of the small wins, small successes. And from there, it's just grown. I mean, we are on our fiscal ended February 29th this year. So we're still in Q1 of our fiscal, and we've already generated almost as much pipe as we closed the year with last year. Like people they like the program. They're all about it. They see the momentum. So I feel like that's really the way that you kind of get the stakeholders involved. We have a new sales leader. I was on a pipeline call earlier this week, and he was asking a couple questions, and I'm like, I'm going to put time on your calendar and we're going to do an overview, ask me anything. I'm an open book. But to me anyway, that's kind of how we've gotten the buy-in, and it seems to work.
Oh yeah, you nailed it. A lot of best practices you mentioned there, like the marketing your marketing, roadshow type thing, over communicating. I love, everything you said about that was spot on. And another thing we talked about previously, many folks perceive account-based to be primarily for net new. And we know that every board these days is talking about cross-sell, upsell, and retention. Mm-hmm. So in your experience, how can account-based marketing help with cross-sell, upsell, retention, improving some of those customer relationships?
Yeah. And it's interesting because when we started the program at E2 Open, we started it really with a focus on existing customers because we were looking at existing ARR, really using it kind of as a tool to accelerate more than create. We only started taking like prospect accounts kind of towards the end of year one. So a little bit of a different approach, again, to get some of those early successes and kind of show that the method works. But I think that given that ABM is all about the customer, I do think it's really effective for that customer retention, upsell, and cross-sell. It's obviously a lot easier to sell to an existing customer than to land a new one. So we kind of use that to our advantage in ABM. We love custom landing pages that can kind of evolve over time. Like I mentioned, we maybe want to sell a lot to a specific customer. Maybe we've grown from acquisition. So maybe they only have one, small product and not our whole footprint. So we like to build those, and then they can kind of come back to them time and time again. I think too, as you have existing customers, you build those relationships within those customers. And I love to get an insider champion or coach that's like sharing the materials that we're building internally as well, and just almost evangelizing, for the campaign and for the company and for whatever opportunities we're pursuing there. So I think that using ABM like that can help you build those like long-term advocates. Then it's all a circular motion. Like they'll speak in webinars, they'll do reference calls. Like ABM is so much more than, a net new acquisition strategy. It can look a lot like customer marketing in a lot of ways. So I think that you really need to look at the totality of your customer life cycle and journey within your organization. And you never want it to be a Hail Mary. So I think of, when you're looking at churn risk mitigation and that kind of thing, you really got to think through the strategy and not just throw all your resources at it. But if you can step back and look at the whole life cycle, I absolutely think it's powerful for retention, relationship building, totally a long-term play, not just net new.
That's great. And we know more about our customers, to your point, right? Like if you want to be more relevant, more valuable, more personalized, what better place to start than with people we should already know a lot about?
Yes. Couldn't agree more.
Well, this has been awesome. We're trying to keep these tight so folks can listen on their coffee break or listen on lunch. So we're going to transition to a couple fun questions to close things out. The first we call good reads. Are there any books, podcasts, videos, newsletters, ebooks, anything that you've read recently that you'd recommend for folks or listened or watched?
Absolutely. If you can see behind me here, I do have my library, which actually is bigger than even what you can see. So avid reader. From a business perspective, a couple of books I've read in the last couple of years that I absolutely love and have kind of helped shape who I am, how I show up to work. One of them's called How Women Rise by Sally Helson and Marshall Goldsmith. He also wrote What Got You There, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. So it's just kind of more from a female perspective, rising leadership. And I love that book. I would highly recommend it. Another one is Radical Candor by Kim Scott. It's, again, how I like to show up to work every day. And I've had leaders take that approach with me and completely just appreciate the openness and always knowing where you stand. And then Amp It Up is kind of one of the latest that I've read by Frank Slootman, who's the CEO of Snowflake. Our chief commercial officer at E2Open recommended it. And it's a great book for just, ramping up how you approach sales and customers. And, it talks about drivers on the bus and passengers on the bus. And it's high energy, really great book. If I could give you two other ones just really quickly on more of a personal level, some of my favorite authors, Kristen Hanna, The Women is her latest book, I think, which is on my shelf, but I haven't read it yet. But Firefly Lane and Flyaway Home. Firefly Lane, they did make a TV show out of, and it's super good. And my new favorite author is Frederick Bachman. I don't know if you've heard of the book Anxious People, but it's incredible. And he has tons of books, but he has another series that I just finished the second, the Beartown series, which is about hockey, which is not my thing. But the books he writes, it's amazing. It's really good.
Love that. Awesome recommendations there. Great ones to read. We will add those to our list. And we also love to ask about great people. Who inspires you in the B2B space, or who are some names that you think we should have on the show?
I'll give you a couple. Someone that worked with me when I kind of started my ABM journey, my last company. She's since moved on as well. Her name's Caroline Quinn. She does ABM at Cloudflare now, and she is going to be a CMO one day. She just is an amazing talent. She has a real passion and knowledge of ABM. I mean, she's incredible. Part of why I decided to leave my last role in my last company was because she didn't need me anymore. She's just really so good. She could just run it without me, and it's time for me to do something else. So Caroline Quinn, you should have on the show. Another one is Kelly Robb. She is a former CMO turned owner and CEO of Purple Cork. We worked with Purple Cork a lot. They do, personalized wine tastings. We use them for ABM, and she's just really fun. And I love her company and what she's doing. And the last one I'll leave you with is my former CMO, Kevin Iaquinto. I worked with him at Blue Yonder. He's now at Coupa Software, and he just changed the way I felt about marketing. He's very fun and outspoken, and we just did such cool things under his leadership. So I would work for him again in a minute. He would be another fun guy to have on the show.
Awesome. Great recommendations too. And huge fan of Cloudflare. They have multiple superstar women there that will be CMOs. I mean, we work with them a lot. So the awesome team there. Glad that Carolyn found an amazing home. And then the last and most important question, how can people get in touch with you after this podcast?
I'm on LinkedIn. So if you want to look me up on LinkedIn, I'm happy to connect with anyone. You could share the link to my profile, send me a message. I love talking about ABM and would be happy to share email after we connect as well. But you could definitely find me there.
Outstanding. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Amanda.
Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, it's a passion and it's fun, and I love what you guys are doing. So thanks for letting me ramble on for a bit.
Thanks for joining us for On Base. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to share, rate, review, and subscribe on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. This show is brought to you by Demandbase, the only account-based experience platform built for sales and marketing alignment.